Liverpool drop points at home to Manchester United. Is it a case for Arsenal of no damage done this weekend, or is it a huge opportunity missed? We're going to try and make sense of that. We're going to discuss that game between Liverpool and Manchester United as well, because I think there was a lot of interesting things that we saw take shape in that game. We're also going to continue to react to what happened at the Amex yesterday. Arsenal dropped a couple of really, really important points, but there's been a lot of debate around some of the decisions in that game as well. We'll break it all down on this live episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. Thanks for joining me. Hey, everybody, how are we? Happy Sunday. Coming to you live on this Sunday evening. If you're listening on the audio feed, this will be in your feed first thing on Monday morning. So good morning to you guys. I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend. It's been a strange weekend for me, I've got to say. It's been a really, really busy one in terms of getting this place ready. No pictures and stuff up on the wall yet, but we're nearly there. And hopefully by the end of tomorrow, hopefully by the next episode, you'll be able to see how I've kitted out the place. But just really, really pleased to have somewhere to sit and record again without having to hide from the kids and having to ask everybody to be quiet for 30 to 45 minutes each time. So really, really happy about that. Really, really grateful with how it's all come out. So yeah, really looking forward to sharing it with you guys. And I will do that tomorrow. But we're here to talk about that enthralling clash between Liverpool and Manchester United. I thought that's exactly what it was. Plus, as I said at the top there, we'll be reflecting on what happened to us yesterday as well, because I think there's a lot to get into. There's a lot to unpack. And I think it's much easier to do that sort of 24 hours later when you've had a bit of time to, in this case, calm down and process exactly what happened and try and figure out exactly what went wrong. I said it on the episode that we did on Saturday night. Like, a lot of people seem to think that because I was annoyed about the penalty decision, that because I was annoyed about how Anthony Taylor handled that situation and the fact that retrospectively the VAR didn't intervene to sort of, or maybe they did intervene, but they didn't like go far enough into it. Like, they didn't look at it in enough detail, in my opinion, because if they did, they would have spotted that William Saliba heads the ball after João Pedro heads the ball. And therefore, that's not a foul. It's a coming together in the penalty area. And we see that type of thing happen all the time and nothing's given. I mean, Dejan Kulusevski literally shoulder barged into Anthony Gordon's face in a game earlier on in the day and nothing was done. And that's fine because Dejan Kulusevski didn't mean it. He wasn't making a challenge. William Saliba is in a position where he's not deliberately gone to do João Pedro. Like, he's actually headed the ball first, which makes it not a foul. I think it's really straightforward. And I think, look, I don't really have too much of an issue with Anthony Taylor because in real time, it was very, very difficult to see that touch from William Saliba. But when you've got the replays there, use them. Otherwise, what the hell is the point of this technology that has impacted our sport so much, yet we only seem to use it thoroughly enough and well enough on certain occasions? That's really, really frustrating. But anyway, look, we got lots more to get into. I don't want to dwell on that too much. Like, I do think there was a lot wrong with Arsenal's performance, and we'll talk about that later on in the pod as well. If I could just ask you, if you're watching us live on YouTube right now, please do leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and help us on our way towards our next target. If you are watching us on X, and there are hundreds of you with us live right now on X, which is amazing, come over, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check it out. If you prefer to listen to your podcasts on the go, you can do that. You can listen to the Chronicles of a Gooner while you're on your travels, while you're walking the dog, while you're at work, whatever it may be. You can download it on all major platforms. So yeah, please do check it out. Okay, let's start with that game at Anfield, because it's fair to say it didn't go how I thought it would go. So before we start sort of breaking down the ins and outs of this game, I do want to share a bet that I had with you guys. And I made this bet going into this game, right, with a Liverpool thrashing of Manchester United in mind. I think that's what everybody thought was going to happen. That's what everybody believed this one was going to look like. So my bet builder was 5 legs, okay? So there's 5 legs in this. The first one was Liverpool to win. The second one was Manuel Ugarte to commit 2 or more fouls. Was Diogo Dalot to commit 2 or more fouls. Then I went for over 3.5 goals because I fancied Liverpool to put 4s and 5s past them. And I went for over 7.5 corners. That was 8-1. And the only bit, would you believe it, was Liverpool not winning the game. That's the only bit that didn't come in for me. That's the bit that let the bet down. So it just, that goes to highlight what a bonkers game it was, because of all the 5 things that I put in that bet. Manuel Ugarte to commit the 2 fouls, Diogo Dalot to commit 2 fouls or more, over 3.5 goals, over 7.5 corners. The thing that I thought was the absolute banker was Liverpool to win. And that's the one that let me down. That's the leg that let me down. So it just goes to show that this is a crazy, crazy sport, crazy, crazy game. Look, I thought Liverpool was second best. I really do. I thought they struggled for large periods in this game. I thought Manchester United were really, really good, really positive as well. And when you think about the noise that's been around them in recent weeks, I think they said on Sky in the lead up to the game that it was Manchester United's worst December in like 90 odd years or something, where they'd lost 6 games. I think he might have even said that it was the first time they've ever lost 6 games in a December. So, that says so much about, how bad Manchester United have been and where they were going into this game. There was even videos going around on social media when the Manchester United team arrived at Anfield, and people were sort of looking at the Manchester United players and saying, oh my God, they look like they're bricking it. They look like they really don't want to be here. They look like they were about to walk into hell. And they go out there and put in on a display and a performance like that. And it shows you, doesn't it, that you just cannot take anything for granted in this league. You can't. As I said, this was a home banker for Liverpool in my eyes, because Manchester United have been that bad. Liverpool have been that good. But as much as I want to sort of sit there and break down this game, and I will touch on one player in particular because I think it's important that we do, because there's a big story around this guy at the moment. I know this is an Arsenal pod, but we are going to do this from time to time, particularly when these stories link back to the Arsenal. I want to do that, but then I want to try and explore how I'm feeling about this. Like, is it a no damage done kind of vibe? Let's get up and move and go again and regroup. Or is it a what a regret story? Like, that's what I'm finding really, really difficult to figure out. But what this does show, I guess, is that Liverpool aren't flawless. And a lot of people talk about this Liverpool team as if they are. A lot of people talk about this Liverpool team as if they're peak Manchester City. And yes, they've picked up some really good results and they're on a great run overall. And, they're in a really commanding position at the top of the Premier League table at the moment, even after today's result. But they're not as good as the peak Manchester City sides. You only need to watch them to see that. And this was another example of a performance under Arne Slot where, in my view, Liverpool probably got more out of it than they deserved. So they're not flawless. You're not chasing down this unbreakable machine. And that's why, even though I think we're a long way behind and it's going to be an upward struggle and we're probably not going to do it, it's why I get really wound up and frustrated when people talk the way they do about this Arsenal side, as if, what we are asking them to still go on and achieve this season is impossible. It's not impossible. It's going to be tough, but it's not impossible. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make here. I'm trying very hard this season to kind of manage my expectations. Like, I can't go into another final day of the season thinking we're going to win the league and then us failing to do it. I just don't know that emotionally I can handle that, right? So I am trying very, very hard to kind of manage those expectations. If I keep telling myself for now that we're out of it, then, I will have time to kind of make peace with that idea. And maybe when it is won mathematically by Liverpool or whoever it is at the top of the table, it is only going to be Liverpool if it isn't us, then I'll be able to kind of just process that a little bit easier. I don't know. I suggest you guys start doing the same as well. But look, there's one player in particular that I really want to touch on from this game. And that is, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Trent Alexander-Arnold's been heavily linked with a move away from Liverpool. Obviously, hasn't signed that contract extension. And we know that during January, Real Madrid made an approach for him. Now, I've always found Trent Alexander-Arnold an incredibly difficult footballer to analyze. And the reason I find him incredibly difficult to analyze is because all of his characteristics, all of what he's great at, are things that you don't necessarily associate with a right fullback. Like, there are fullbacks in the past that were very good at putting crosses into the box. There were fullbacks in the past that were really great at sort of marauding down the flank and had big impacts in games in the opposition third. That's been there before. That's not something new. But he's just such a midfielder playing in a defense that I find it really, really difficult at times to kind of put my finger on whether I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is this world-class player that people say he is. Take today's game as an example. It's very, very clear that Ruben Amorim went into today's game with Trent Alexander-Arnold in mind. And what I mean by that is he obviously looked at him and said, this is where we can get some joy. This is where we should focus our attacking play. This is where we should try and create overloads. And you've got to give Ruben Amorim credit, because a lot of teams look at Liverpool's right-hand side and it strikes fear into them. Okay, you look at it, Trent Alexander-Arnold, how are you going to cope with him? How are you going to cope with Mo Salah coming down that side as well? And it strikes fear into people to the point where I honestly believe that, you know, people have just given up on going back at Liverpool down that side. A bit like what we were saying about Arsenal with Odegaard and Saka and White, when that kind of trio was all working in tandem and working really, really well. You know it's coming, and you wouldn't dare going into a game and actually saying, no, you know what, we're going to try and pin you back. We're going to try and be the ones on the front foot, and we're going to try and put you under pressure. And Manchester United, obviously, with their system and the wing backs and all of that, were able to do that maybe a little bit more effectively than certain other teams that perhaps don't play with that system. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if Trent Alexander-Arnold is this unbelievable player, and I'm not even saying that he's not, I'm just trying to share with you guys my kind of thinking process around this. If Trent Alexander-Arnold is this really, really amazing right back, would opposition managers be looking at him and saying, that's the weak link? Because I honestly believe that's what Ruben Amorim did today. And as good as Trent is, and as great as he's been, generally speaking, over a number of years now for Liverpool, he was really uncomfortable today. And it's not the first time defensively he's looked that uncomfortable. So I'm just simply asking the question, if he was the best right back in the world, would he be that easy to get at? Can we say that he's one of the most technically gifted footballers in the world? Yeah, absolutely we can. But then you get into that kind of space again, don't you, about his position. What is his position? Where does he work best? Etc. etc. Lots of people are saying in the chat, and were saying during the game, that his head's been turned by Real Madrid, that perhaps, you know, there's a distraction. There's something that is playing on his mind. And I think that's probably got some truth to it. You know, I can't say for sure how Trent Alexander-Arnold's feeling. I can't say for sure how close a deal, or, you know, how close he is to, you know, signing a new contract at Liverpool is. Because I just don't know. I'd be lying. What I'm saying is that we heard Mo Salah's comments the other day. You know, we heard him talking about, you know, the fact that this is going to be his last season. Clearly, there's a bit of friction between him and the football club. Trent Alexander-Arnold's getting a lot of shit from some of the fans, and it feels like that's kind of spilling into his performance now as well. Is all as good as it seems from the outside as Liverpool is the question that I'm asking. And again, I'm not saying that they won't win the league. All I'm saying is that there's enough there for Arsenal to still be pushing, and there's not enough there for our fans to be going into complete and utter meltdown and pretending like it's all done, all dusted, and that we should just forget about it and move on. The way people are so keen to have a go at our team, our manager, our players, and then call themselves Arsenal supporters is weird and baffling to me. But anyway, as I said, this result, what does it show? It shows that Liverpool aren't flawless. It shows that Liverpool aren't unbeatable. It shows that Liverpool aren't a side that are going to steamroller every single team that comes to Anfield. They've had their fair share of issues at Anfield. The problem has been, guys, is that when they've dropped points, we've not taken advantage. And we're going to come on to that conundrum. Is it a no damage done type weekend where you should actually walk away from it feeling quite relieved? Or is it one where you should be ruining the fact that Arsenal failed in the way that they did? Okay, so I've been thinking about this for the last couple of hours, racking my brain, trying to figure out exactly how I feel around this. And look, I said on the pod post the Brighton game that I wouldn't sit here the next day and bullshit you guys into thinking that what happened at Brighton in terms of our performance was okay, regardless of whether Manchester United got something at Anfield or not. And so I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm not going to sit and pretend that everything that we saw from Arsenal yesterday was good enough, was at the level we expect, or indeed at the level we require. It wasn't. Okay, it simply wasn't. There was a lot that was missing. There was a lack of cutting edge again. There was a lack of progression of the ball, I thought, from the midfield areas. We seemed to be too heavily dependent on set pieces. At the time, I was quite critical of Mikel Arteta taking nwaneri off, but we since learned that he had an injury, and that was something that the manager had to do. Another injury, how's your luck? We were without Havertz through illness. We were without Odegaard through illness. Martinelli was suffering with this illness as well, and so we understand wasn't able to start the game. So look, we're having a rough time of it at the minute. Like that's the bottom line. We're having a really, really rough time of it this season. And injuries, yeah, okay, you can take care of your players better, and there's a lot that you can do to try and control how many injuries you suffer with, and try and control how durable your players are based on not overloading them and making the right rotations at the right times. All of that stuff is absolutely valid, but it's impossible to ignore the fact that we've just had rotten crap luck this season when it comes to those factors. Then you add into that some of the refereeing that we've been on the receiving end of. And I'll tell you what really winds me up. And I'm going to come to the live chat in a minute. So if you've got questions, if you've got thoughts on this, get them in. I'd love to hear from you guys as well. But I'll tell you what really winds me up is that when a decision goes against us, and a significant amount of the general public believe that it was a shit decision, which I think a lot of people do this time around. I watched Match of the Day last night, and I thought the pundits did a great job of explaining why that wasn't a penalty kick, and explained the fact that, if that is a penalty kick, then you're probably going to get a few of those every single game because people coming together, it happens. It's a contact sport. But I guess my point around this is when other fans then take to social media and go, oh, look, it's Arsenal again. They think everybody's against them. They think it's a conspiracy theory, blah, 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 blah. Just wait until it happens to your club. Just wait until it happens to your club. And this is not me being a hypocrite. When Liverpool went to White Hart Lane, or the Tottenham Hotspur Bowl Stadium, whatever it's called, and they had that perfectly legitimate goal ruled out, I went on a show the next day and I sat there and I said, after Liverpool put out their statement, whatever they did, asking for, or Jurgen Klopp asked for a replay, whatever, and I defended it. I defended Liverpool's stance because I really, truly do believe that unless all of the teams, especially the powerful ones, especially those at the top of the Premier League, those who make the wheels turn, those who bring in the revenues, those who people all around the world pay the TV rights to watch. And it's not me being a snob, it's not me being arrogant, but you wouldn't get massive deals from, for instance, beIN Sports just to watch Fulham and Ipswich. Like the big game that was worth the rights today was the Man United Liverpool game, okay? So the point I'm trying to make here is that if those clubs do not call this crap out when it happens, then those who continue to carry out poor standards of officiating will be allowed to continue to do so and will never be held accountable under the cloak of football tribalism. So if a Man United fan or a Liverpool fan or a Tottenham fan or a Chelsea fan or a West Ham fan looks at what happened to us yesterday and goes, oh, I don't care because it's Arsenal and they're always the victims, blah, 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 blah. They're always banging on about conspiracy theories against them. Then you're giving the PGMOL and those really, really poor referees the cloak that they need to hide under so that they can pass through all the shitstorm without getting affected. If we all just put tribalism to one side for a minute and actually focused on the problems that this league has and the problems with the standard of the officiating, maybe we'd get somewhere. Spurs were robbed yesterday. I've got no problem as an Arsenal fan in saying that. No problem whatsoever. Joe Linton handles the ball to stop a Spurs breakaway. And after the turnover of possession, Newcastle United go and score a goal. And then you've got all this nonsense being wheeled out. Well, what phase of play was it in? And then what you've got is you've got the PGMOL and the guy in the VAR room sort of squirming desperately, trying to find some kind of justification as to why that goal should be allowed to stand, so that they can then go on X and put out this rubbish explanation on one of their Twitter accounts. Like, that's the world we're living in right now. Don't give them anywhere to hide. If Arsenal fans are sitting there now and Arsenal fans are saying, oh, well, stop moaning, Spurs, we're wrong. We're wrong, because we've been on the receiving end of that nonsense as well. And we all have to call it out. Having said all of that, having just gone on that rant, that does not take away from the fact that I thought Arsenal were poor yesterday. And it winds me up, right? It's as if the two opinions can't exist. The opinion of Arsenal were not good enough and did not deserve to win at Brighton can coexist with the opinion of that is a ridiculous penalty decision and one that has cost us dearly. And whatever you say about the performance, if we don't concede that penalty kick, we probably don't concede the equaliser, and we probably leave there with all 3 points. The two opinions, though, they can coexist. They can coexist. And so I'm not sitting here giving Mikel Arteta a free ride. I'm not sitting here giving the team a free ride. What I take massive issue with, though, and what I've seen quite a bit of in the aftermath of what we witnessed at the Amex yesterday, is people pointing the finger solely at Mikel Arteta. If I go and have a look at let me just share my screen with you guys so you can see what I'm looking at. Hold on a second. Which one do I want? There we go. Share screen. This is the one I want. No, hold on. I want the tab, not the window. There you go. That's the one I want. Okay. So if I go back to yesterday's results, okay, and we go Brighton Arsenal, and we look at the lineup. Okay. One of the things that Mikel Arteta was criticised for was picking an imbalanced team. Okay, it was Jorginho, Rice, and Marino in the midfield. It's not the most creative midfield, give you that. Would have been better off with Thomas Partey, because, as I always say, I think his ball progression ability is necessary, and even more so when you don't have Odegaard further up the pitch. I didn't like the fact that we had a right back that isn't a right back and therefore isn't going to do the things that a right back does. And maybe in Thomas Partey's case, because he is such a midfield sort of maestro, he will step into midfield areas maybe a little bit earlier than perhaps Ben White or Julian Timberwood, which can in turn leave you exposed. So I was worried about that going into the game. But you look at that team and, yeah, it's a little bit unbalanced, okay? Nwaneri's not a winger, yet he's playing on the right-hand side. Leandro Trossard, I don't think would have started ahead of Gabriel Martinelli had he been available, but obviously we know he was ill. So then you look at the bench, okay? So Odegaard, sick as a dog. Couldn't start the game, okay? Zinchenko, Tierney, Neto, would any of them have made a difference? Nope. Gabriel Martinelli, sick as a dog, couldn't start the game. Lewis Skelly, Kivior, Kabia, and Butler Oyedeji. No Kai Havertz there. What could Mikel Arteta have done differently with those players? What could Mikel Arteta have done differently with those players yesterday? He picked the best team available to him. If he could have started Martinelli, I think that would have made a positive difference. But obviously, he couldn't do that because he wasn't well enough. So, yeah. I think there are times where you can look at Mikel Arteta. And I think if you want to criticize his squad building and make the wider point that you don't think that this Arsenal team is well equipped enough and has a variety enough of options to be able to not have these issues, then I think that's a valid point. But if you're being critical of his sort of management on this particular day and if his selection on this particular day, I don't really know what more he could have done, if I'm being completely honest with you. So I just wanted to make that point. Look, tomorrow on the Chronicles of a Gooner, we've got an episode coming out. We'll be streaming it live if all is well. Really, really looking forward to bringing you that. And it's going to be called The Big Picture, because I do think at times like this, it's important that we look at the bigger picture. It's important that we zoom out. It's important that we do all of that stuff properly, so that we can have a chance to assess where the club is at, where the team is at. And I think it will give us greater clarity around the January window as well. So yeah, we're going to bring you that tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed, all being well. But yeah, let's get some of your questions. Let's get some of your thoughts from the live chat before I do that. Charlton Ronald says, just going off topic a little bit, but I don't see the bedroom door, Harry. Is that our new man cave? Can I spin this around without messing it up? I don't know if I can, but yes, we're in the new man cave. I don't want to turn the camera too much because I don't want to like unplug it by mistake. But we are in the new man cave. We're all set up. We've got the football. We've got the extra screens. We got the lights. We got the works. Yeah, we're in business. And I need to start putting some of my Arsenal memorabilia and bits up on the wall, which I planned to do today, but I just never got around to it. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. Hopefully I get it done before the pod and I can show it all off, which I'm really looking forward to. Right, let's go over to the live chat and take some of your thoughts for the last sort of 10, 15 minutes or so of the show. There's lots of strong opinions in the chat, which I love. We have got over 1,000 of you live with us right now across YouTube and X. If you are watching us on X, please do, guys, hop over to the YouTube channel, give it a subscribe. If you prefer, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you can subscribe on both. If you want access to our Patreon content, you can sign up to patreon.com/the Chronicles of Aguna, and you'll be helping me to produce the content that we do. Building this room cost me a pretty penny, so any Patreon support would be very, very appreciated. I'm just kidding, but I do need to work extra hard to make sure that we're all good. But yeah, check us out, Patreon, YouTube, wherever. If you're on X, as I say, try coming over to one of the other platforms. We'd really, really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, though, likes are the name of the game. I'm just trying to have a look how many of them we have at the minute, because it's difficult for me to tell. I should have muted the YouTube page before I refreshed it because my ears just went, man, from the advert that was playing through. We got 79 likes on the book, guys. There's hundreds of you with us. Why have we only got 79? Oh, there's another one, 80. Come on, let's push that up. Let's get as many as we possibly can. I feel like an auctioneer. Anyway, let's take some of your questions then. Low Fat Mofat says, Arsenal are not going to win the league and you can't blame City this time. That's true. And a lot of the frustration, I think, comes from the fact that we've been the kind of bridesmaid so many times. And when we thought the bride was done and ready to kind of focus on, I don't know, maybe having kids, and we were ready and we were going to step onto the altar, someone else has come along and snatched that away from us. And the fact that Liverpool were so far behind us last season but appear to have leapfrogged us, it is annoying. It is frustrating. It is disappointing. All I'm going to say is let's see how the season goes, because even if the title race is over, even if Arsenal stand no chance whatsoever of winning the Premier League, this could still be an unbelievable season for Arsenal. And this is something that I want to kind of try and put across in a much more eloquent and thought out way on the next episode, because we're in a cup semi-final. We've got a really great chance. In fact, we're almost there, through in the Champions League as one of the top 8, and there have been some big clubs that have missed out on that. We're not out of the Premier League title race completely. We've got an FA Cup tie at home that I fancy us to win. Like, this still has the potential to be such an amazing season for Arsenal. And that's why I think the people that are super knee-jerk, like, we all get knee-jerk sometimes, and we all say stuff sometimes, and we all have thoughts, and we all have fears, and we need to vent at times. We all have that, and we all do that. But the way some people go on is as if it's the end of the world, and I just don't get it. I just really don't get it. I must remember to do this before I forget. So keep your comments coming. I will continue to pick those up. There is loads coming, loads that are super critical of Arsenal, of Arteta. We'll get into all of those. We'll address those. Don't worry. We'll play both sides of the argument. But I just want to remind you guys that the Chronicles of Aguna podcast is partnered with NordVPN, the best VPN service out there. It's a service that I personally can't do without anymore. Whether you're looking to stream your favorite movies, or your favorite sport, NordVPN is, of course, the one for you. And it is really a game changer. You can sign up via the link in the description. Visit nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC for a mega discount and 4 months free at the end of your plan. Not only does it give me extra protection when surfing the web, downloading or streaming, but I now have the ability to access geo-block content by changing my location virtually with the click of a button. And I really made use of this over the kind of New Year's period because I love watching some programs that are on Greek TV over the kind of New Year's celebrations. And you can't log into their equivalents of iPlayer and things like that because you're not in the country. But if you go and you change your geolocation, as I've just described, with the click of a button using NordVPN, you open up that world, which is amazing. Sign up now via nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC and take advantage of this amazing offer. Plus, with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, it's totally risk-free. You won't regret it. nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC. We thank them for their amazing support of the podcast. Okay, back to the questions, back to the comments. Let's have a look. Reggie says, my philosophy is to not look up and down the table until late March. The standard is the standard, and we need to get our performance levels up, and the next men up have to perform to the standard. I quite like that. I don't think I think you can look at the table and, you can be concerned if you're far behind, and you can be chuffed if you're really far ahead. But you're right to say that the table's relevance is obviously not as significant at this time of the season. And we've learned that the hard way recently. So, yeah. Leonid says, nobody knows it yet, but this was the point of no return for Liverpool. From now, the misery begins. I hope so. When I say misery, I want them to fail as a football team. I don't wish actual real life misery on anybody. Grumpy says, evening lads, next season FC phase 6 of the pain coming up. These buzzwords that people come out with online, phase 6 FC and all of that. Jesus. Ghana329 says, look at all the ridiculous decisions we've had against us that you'll never see again. It's a joke. Absolutely. Tevin says, we still have half the season to go. Still feel we can win the league. We haven't been poor and we haven't been great, but context is important too. One crucial signing can ignite us and bring a new energy. I love that. John says, it's not that these decisions can't be given. It's that the refs always choose to give them against us. I can think of 6 decisions off the top of my head that I've never seen another team get. I get what you're saying. It's like when something is like marginal, when something is like a 50-50 debate, it feels like invariably it gets given against us. I have that exact same feeling. That's exactly how I see it, summed up really, really well. O'Malley says, I mean, this year we literally had a referee who was caught bad-mouthing a coach and doing coke. Lots of people saying the game yesterday was, there was a bad penalty call, but we were crap as well. And I've said that already. And I said it on yesterday's show, and I've said it again. DJD says, couldn't agree more. So tired of the Arteta out people. The thing is as well, like with the Arteta out people, that really kind of gets under my skin. It's like the same people that 5 years ago were saying, Mikel Arteta's crap and he's not going to take us to where we need to be because he hasn't got the experience and all of that. And he's not the guy. We should have got someone that could have us competing for the very biggest prizes. I then say to those people, okay, so what does Mikel Arteta have to do to convince you? And then they said, well, he's got to compete for the title. He's done that in the last 2 years, and he's on course to, at the very least, do that this season, right? And now people are saying, well, that's not good enough. And I get it, right? The goalposts change. With progression comes greater expectation and all of that. And I get it. But Mikel Arteta has already proved you people so wrong, because you said that he wasn't good enough to coach this football club. You said he'd never, ever have Arsenal competing at the top of the Premier League. You said he'd never get Arsenal back into the Champions League. And he's done those things. So why not let him try at least and prove you wrong again? Look, if we get to the end of the season and people feel really strongly, if we miss out and people feel really strongly about whether Arteta should continue or not, I can actually entertain that. I can actually entertain that debate and have that discussion. But on January the 5th, removing your manager now and trying to bring in someone else, it isn't going to ignite things. It isn't going to help you. It's disrupting what you currently have, which is actually, okay, it's not working to the premium level that we hoped it would, but we're still in the Champions League. We're still in the cup. If we start going out of all these other competitions, then I would understand the outrage. But this, as I said already, has a massive, massive potential to be a really, really great season. Tebow, when people say that the sort of Arteta supporters are a cult, and we see quite a lot of that, I get a lot of that coming through on social media. Tebow says it's not cult, but the Arteta haters dismiss the position that he's put our club in, challenging for leagues and possibly the Champions League. They dismissed him from day one, and they're waiting for him to fail. Exactly. There's a lot of people in this space on YouTube, on podcast platforms, that was so adamant that he was bad, and that was so adamant it was the wrong appointment, that they can't possibly swallow their pride and say, well, you know what, actually, he's surpassed my expectations to a point and to a degree. Those people that said he could never get us to this position now have moved the goalposts and are judging him on something else, when actually what they should be saying is, okay, he got us here. He proved me wrong. Can he go to that next level? That is, of course, the next question. But let's see. Let's see. What else have we got? Grumpy says, is it a converted shed, Harry? No, it's not a shed. It's like it's talking about the man cave. It's like a kind of, when you see people get those summer houses built, it's kind of like that. But it's insulated and all the rest of it, and it's got windows and a door and all the rest of it. So yeah, no, it's not quite a shed. I would describe it probably more as a summer house, I think is the way to do it. Brad says, how many points did we have this time last year and how many points have we got now? It's a really good question. I know that once we won at Brentford, we were 1 point worse off than we were at the same stage last season, but I don't know what the Brighton game has done to that in terms of staying in line. But the fact that after Brentford, we were 1 point off of where we were, it kind of says that, we're obviously close. And all the questions that are being asked now, those same questions and complaints were there at the same stage last season. Patrick says the same. For 40 and 40, says Melly. There you go. There's your question answered. Let me frame it this way, and I'm going to sign off in a few minutes' time, but let me just kind of frame this one in a slightly different way, and let me know what you think about this, okay? Because for a few weeks now, and particularly after the Brentford game, and because that was a game where we also had to use the squad, where we were without key players, and we managed to find a way to go and win. Look, we had 2 away games in a really short space of time. After the Brentford game, if I told you that Arsenal were going to go and win at the Amex, and that Liverpool were going to beat Manchester United comfortably, a really poor Manchester United team, we all know that they're struggling. We all know that they're not very good at the minute. If I told you that, and then I said to you, okay, what do you think now about our title chances? Or what do you think that weekend does to our title chances? You would have said nothing. In a lot of cases, a lot of people would have said, well, if we go and win at Brighton and they beat Man United as we expect, nothing changes. So why, now that we've both got the same result, is it like the end of the world when actually the points difference is the same? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So a lot of the time it's about the framing of stuff. A lot of the time it's about the perception of certain things. So yeah, it's really, really tough to manage the emotions. It's really, really tough to deal with this on a weekly basis, because it's kind of ups and downs, right? We go to Brentford, a team that had only lost once at home all season. We played quite well. We beat them comfortably. We do it with the squad. We do it with a lot of key players missing, and the mood is all round positive. Then you go to the following week and you go and play away at Brighton, another difficult place to go. And, you don't win, but neither do Liverpool. Therefore, there isn't any damage done mathematically. It's an opportunity missed. And I'll just summarize where I kind of started the pod. It's more an opportunity missed than a sense of relief. For me, that's how I feel. I want to kick us or kick myself. Like, because we didn't go there and we didn't get what we needed or what we wanted. And had we done that, what happened today at Anfield would have been something to not celebrate, but something to be really positive and optimistic about. And instead, we're looking at it with regret. And I hate having regret. So I look at it that way. It is frustrating. It is annoying. But as I keep saying, I keep beating the same drum, we have to look at the bigger picture. And that's what we're going to do on the next episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner, unless there's any major transfer news in between that we need to discuss. That's what you can expect on the next show. If I could just ask you one more time before I sign off. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave us a like. It really, really does help. There's no reason why we shouldn't have 200 likes on the board. If you're watching us on X, make sure you subscribe to the Chronicles of a Gooner on YouTube, on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, wherever it is that you prefer, and give me a follow on this platform, X, as well, if that's where you're with us. I'm also over on Blue Sky as well. You can just search my name, Harry Symeou, and it should come up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in live. Thank you to NordVPN for supporting the podcast, as they always do. Thank you to all our amazing patrons, and we will see you all on the next episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a great day. Goodbye.